So the early spoilers for chapter 11 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is finally here, and let's just say that power scalers are not so happy. So we have Himawari versus Jura, which pretty much carried over from chapter 10, but in this case she seems to be holding her own against Jura to the point where he's visibly flying away trying to avoid her Bijuu bomb. Now this might seem crazy to some, but it actually makes sense based on the ability being used here. You see, Bijuu bombs are pretty much just a mass of condensed chakra. These are said to be made by an 8:2 ratio of positive black chakra and negative white chakra, which users typically gather and balance using their mouths, shape it into a sphere, and then fire at their targets. Though this seems to be quite different with Jura since he was able to do it using his eyeball instead. Now this could be Kishimoto signifying that this is some advanced version of the jutsu, or that Jura is just a better user. But it could also be the case that it's just meant to add some flair, but we'll just have to wait and see. By the way, we also have Himawari forming the same jutsu using her hair follicles, which is now separated into 9 parts to represent the power of the 9 tails. What I will say is that this is reminiscent of Naruto creating a Bijuu bomb using the tails of his 4-tailed state. So if Himawari's hair is being used to mimic the tails of Kurama, similar to what happened to Naruto's cloak when he went Barin mode, it's likely that she's just doing something similar to 4-tails Naruto and not anything new per se. Though at the same time, the mouth of the 4-tails was also involved in that case, while it seems like it's just purely coming from the hair strand tips in her case. By the way, if this bomb explodes, you guys can say goodbye to Team 10 because it's no joke. Remember, this is a mass of condensed chakra. So it's similar to the Rasengan which Minato created using the fundamentals of the Tail Beast bomb itself, which was stated in Naruto. The clear difference here is that it's way more potent and likely way more condensed as well. Now, what I mean by this is that you guys might be saying that these Bijuu bombs are smaller than the ones you saw in Naruto, so how can they be more powerful? Well, aside from the potency aspect, they also possess more compact chakra, which was shown by Naruto literally compressing his Bijuu bomb and the weight of it causing him to sink into the ground. This became even more extreme when he couldn't even move after consuming said mass of chakra, which actually shows that the size of the ball itself doesn't matter. In fact, the more compression applied to the ball makes it stronger. So the Bijuu bombs being used by Himawari and Jura might yield better results due to their compact nature, which is also shown by Himawari sinking into the ground similar to Naruto. Now, one thing I don't see people mentioning is the difference between how both bombs are used. In Jura's case, he seems to pull in energy in a straight line, which is weird, while Himawari adds a rotational element similar to how Killer Bee created his Bijuu bombs. Now this could be Kishimoto adding some flair again, but it could also mean something else. One thing I will say is that Jura flying away from Himawari signifies that she's at least able to tussle with him, which is probably gonna upset a few people when it comes to power scaling. But as I mentioned in my video about why she can't win, which I did a few days ago, Himawari is quite powerful and it may seem like the tide may shift in her favor, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. From a narrative standpoint, it just wouldn't make sense. I mean, for one, it's way too early for the villain to lose. Jura was just introduced a few chapters ago, and it seems that they're going a different route than what they did with Code, which is great. So for that reason, I don't see Jura losing here. But he may retreat if he's outnumbered, which is where Delta and Kawaki comes in. That said, the main reason why Himawari can't beat Jura is due to her power level. Yes, we know she had some hidden power that surprised Damon, a power he felt was enough to dodge one of his attacks. But at the same time, we have to remember that Himawari doesn't have control of that power as yet. And control is very important even if you have a lot of power, which is ironically the issue Naruto suffered from for many years. So even though she has this greater affinity to Kurama's chakra, which will likely be used to upscale her power level, she still needs to learn how to properly use it. We might also see a case where this form has a time limit similar to when Naruto first befriended Kurama and entered KCM. Her body simply needs to get used to using a power she never used before. Oh, by the way, what I also noticed from this panel is that her leg is no longer broken, which means that the healing factor of the 9 tails is just as potent as ever. And before anyone calls this a plot hole for some weird reason, remember that Kid Naruto with just the 1-tailed state was able to instantly regenerate his entire shoulder bone and skin after Sasuke stabbed him with the Chidori. So the 9 tails healing factor has always been broken, just also inconsistent. This also leads into whether she'll be able to save Inojin using the power of the 9 tails, since we know for certain that the power can be shared with others as well, as seen in the war. By the way, we can just use the events of the Boruto movie itself where Naruto is able to heal half of Sasuke's body from burn damage within seconds, whilst also regrowing his hair somehow. So as I said, the ability was always broken, just inconsistent. What I will say is that Naruto suffered damage similar to Inojin in the Blood Prison movie, and he actually died from that, which implies that the Nine Tails couldn't save him. Which it would have if it could have, since it needs Naruto to stay alive. So maybe this power just isn't enough to replace entire organs, or it could be the case that it is now that it's inside Himawari's body, which has a greater affinity to that chakra. I mean, Kurama isn't the Ten Tails by any stretch of the imagination, but we saw Madara regenerate half of his body using its power, which likely means that it has a stronger regen due to being more powerful. So if this Kurama is more powerful due to that affinity boost, he might be able to accomplish things the prior Kurama couldn't. Now I would go over the other abilities Jura might possess, but I'm going to save that for another video releasing over the weekend. What I want to focus on here is just Jura's power level because it's very interesting, right? I mean, we know he scales above Karma Kawaki since he was able to knock him out with 2 hits. He's also clearly faster than him as well. Yet when it comes to Himawari, it seems like he's having more trouble at face value. I mean, it would make sense since Daemon's sense that her hidden power would be enough to dodge him, and Kawaki scales below Daemon, far below. So it would make sense, or it would stand to reason, that Jura would have more trouble with her than he would with Kawaki. But at the same time, I personally don't think Himawari has access to that full power as yet, since I believe that it isn't just about Kurama. Now I know a lot of you guys probably forgot about this, but Himawari was able to knock out Naruto with a single hit at the tender age of 6. And not only did she put Naruto to sleep, she also knocked out the Nine Tails at the same time. So she had greater power long before Kurama died in the battle versus Ishiki. I mean, Boruto himself mentions this to Daemon and says she gets scary when she snaps, which is of course in reference to that same power, which we've seen displayed multiple times in the anime. Now I'm sure some of you guys are probably thinking that Kurama said that she possibly had like a slither of his chakra at birth, so maybe that tiny portion of his chakra was responsible for her power, thus allowing her to knock out a full-grown Kurama and the strongest man on the planet with a single hit. Mind you, not even Fused Momoshiki could accomplish this on his best day. With that said, I personally disagree since, for one, the power equivalence isn't math and it just doesn't make sense, along with the fact that both powers manifested differently. In one case, it's her Byakugan that activates and her personality changes along with it. Yet in this instance, she has the Fox pupil and her personality remains intact, it seems. So clearly she manifested different powers in both cases, which is why I personally believe that her using Kurama isn't the full extent of her power, and this isn't the only thing that Daemon sends within her body. So until she learns how to control both aspects of her power, thus unifying them, she won't be as strong as she's meant to be, but I could be wrong, and we'll see. But when it comes to Jura specifically, I think we need to slow down a bit and see what happens, because him evading her attack doesn't necessarily mean that she's scaling to him in power. It could simply be that he's testing her capabilities. We have to remember that Jura is a very curious individual. I mean, he was quite literally born yesterday. We see that in his obsession with reading books as seen in chapter 5 and later on in chapter 8. He just wants to consume knowledge and learn as much as he can. So it isn't far-fetched to say that he's curious about what's happening with Himawari and the sudden jump in her power, especially since it seems like he's not able to sense Kurama's presence within her body. This was shown in chapter 9 when he first approached her along with Team 10. He assumed that his target was Naruto Uzumaki because he's the one who possessed the chakra of the Nine Tails. But when he got to the village, the one emitting the Nine Tails chakra signature was Himawari, but he didn't understand why. I mean, he flat out says he doesn't know either, in response to Shikadai asking what Himawari has to do with the Nine Tails. So it does stand to reason that he'd be surprised by Himawari emitting more of that power suddenly, which is literally his reaction to her transformation. So while I would love to say that him flying away from Himawari means that Himawari is now Jura level in her base Nine Tails state, I would recommend holding off on that until we get the full chapter. The most likely case is that he's gonna play around with Himawari for a bit and then he's gonna knock her out after he's satisfied. This could possibly lead into the Himawari rescue arc that was teased in the anime opening, which is normally quite accurate when it comes to foreshadowing events of the manga. Then again, Kawaki and Delta were heading towards that location in the prior chapter, so maybe Kishimoto changes his mind and just has them rescue her by outnumbering Jura. Maybe he retreats after, experiencing some drawbacks or limitation to his own power, similar to what happened to Obito after he first became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. I know the cases are different since Jura is likely the embodiment of the Ten Tails itself, but Kishimoto could make it work if he really wanted to. With that said, that's it for the video guys. What's your thoughts on the early spoilers? Of course, it's just one page, so it's not much to go off of. We're gonna get the full spoilers in like 2 or 3 days, so if you guys want to learn as it happens, you know, when the spoiler comes out, I'm normally very early when it comes to the spoilers. So if you guys want to learn as it drops, go ahead, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get notified when I post that video. And also join the Discord. We discuss the spoilers and stuff when they drop, and it's way easier to get notified since I'm getting multiple complaints about not getting notified of my videos when I post on YouTube. So you guys will get notified in Discord certainly once you guys have notifications enabled for the app itself. So if you guys want to join, the link will be pinned in the comments and also in the description. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.